Hey there, geeks and geekettes. Welcome to The Walking Dead Revisited, Episode 2 for Season 2, Part 1. If that's confusing, I'll explain it all at the end. And just before we get into The Walking Dead, if you could please like, comment, share and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. The second season of The Walking Dead aired on October the 16th, 2011 and consisted of 13 episodes, whereas season 1 only contained 6. There was a different showrunner took over by the name of Glenn Mazzara after the departure of the original showrunner Frank Darabont. The season finale was watched by 9 million viewers, making it the highest rated episode to this point. So season 2 of The Walking Dead adapts the comic issues 7 through 12, and it sees Rick Grimes and his fellow survivors continue to survive in the post-apocalypse, overrun by flesh-eating walkers after escaping the destruction for the Center for Disease Control. The group leave Atlanta in search of safety. Episode 1 is titled What Lies Ahead, and this is where the group decide they're going to head to Fort Benning, but while on the freeway, which is backed up with abandoned vehicles, while they're searching the vehicles for supplies, food, water, things like that, they discover the first herd of walkers, a migrating herd of walkers. The group are forced to hide under the vehicles on the highway. Basically, they hide until the walkers pass. Unfortunately, Sophia, played by Madison Lintz, is Carol's daughter, is noticed by 2 walkers and is chased off into the woods. The 2 walkers are killed by Rick, who's gone in search of Sophia. Unfortunately, his search turns up empty-handed and he returns to the group to look for help. So Rick, Shane and Carl go off in one group to search, Daryl with another. Carl spots a deer, and as he's getting closer and closer to the deer and reaches out to touch this deer, you hear a gunshot and then Carl fall backwards, and then we're on to episode 2. Episode 2 is called Bloodletting, and it transpires that a hunter called Otis has shot the deer. The bullet has gone through the deer and hit Carl. So Carl has been accidentally shot, but obviously Carl is still a very young boy at this age. Rick takes Carl to a farm owned by a veterinarian called Herschel Green, and he's taken there by Otis, who's accidentally shot Carl, because Otis is the farm handler. Herschel Green is played by Scott Wilson, and he also has his family living with him, 2 daughters, Maggie and Beth Green, played by Lauren Cohan and Emily Kinney. And Patricia is Otis's wife, and Jimmy is Beth's boyfriend. And I haven't gone into the casting of the others because they play very small parts, really. And this rounds out the new look cast. Obviously, some people have not made it from the first season, and they've replaced them with others. The original core, I think, is 7 survivors to this point have made it through. Herschel is a veterinarian and he's able to stabilise Carl, but he needs further medical supplies, and the only place they can think of for medical supplies is a school that is overrun with walkers that was sent up as a sort of medical trauma centre during this apocalypse. Shane and Otis agreed to go and get these medical supplies, and while they're doing this, Rick gives blood transfusions to his son Carl to keep him alive, as Rick and Carl share the same blood type. Kind of handy, that. Obviously, these blood transfusions leave Rick weakened, so he can't go on runs or have anything to do with the rescuing of Carl or Sophia. So And it's also at this point you realise that the rivalry between Rick and Shane is really starting to boil over, and it's going to get a lot worse before it gets any better. Episode 3 is titled Save the Last One. Shane escapes the overrun school with the supplies to save Carl, but he shows his true colours by shooting Otis in the leg and basically leaving him for lunch for the walkers. He's a distraction because he's on the floor screaming in pain. So Shane escapes, returns the hero, and he says that Otis sacrificed himself to save Carl and Shane, trying to redeem himself. And you see that some people are not buying this story. Certainly Rick and Dale don't seem to be buying it. They don't seem convinced. Daryl is continuing his search for Sophia, taking teams out, while the rest of the injured party, or the injuries from the group, arrive at the farm for treatment from Herschel. Maggie Green goes back to get Laurie, Carl's mother, and sort of heroically saves the group and takes Laurie back to the farm. Episode 4 is called Cherokee Rose. Herschel's surgery on Carl is successful, but Herschel tells Rick that once Carl is stronger and healed enough, they need to leave. Rick then sort of tells with Herschel that if he sends them out, he's killing them, and convinces Herschel that his group will follow any rules that Herschel sets out in order for them to stay on the farm, and they could be a help to him. As part of this, there's a walker stuck in a well, and in a bid to get this walker out of the well, Glenn risks his life, at which point Maggie tells him that she doesn't think his group appreciates him. It's always Glenn doing the runs, Glenn doing the scavenging, and they put Glenn at risk. And this sort of leads to Maggie and Glenn starting a bit of a romance, and also Laurie the bitch discovers that she's pregnant. That's going to end well. Episode 5 is titled Chupacabra, and this is mostly about Daryl and his search for Sophia. So Rick and Shane in the meantime are still butting heads over the search, Shane believing that the search is pointless and the group need to move on, whereas Rick wants to stay put and conduct searches. Herschel is also becoming more unnerved and annoyed by the survivors' presence on his farm, and obviously Glenn and Maggie attempting to have this sort of secret romance. If that gets found out, that's an extra thing that could get this group removed. So Glenn passes a note to Maggie for her to meet him in a barn for a bit of hanky-panky in the hayloft, and Maggie tries to stop him, but it's too late as Glenn discovers the barn is full of walkers. Also in this episode, there's Daryl's rescue attempts at Sophia don't go so well. He ends up quite severely injured and hallucinating visits from his brother Merle, but Daryl doesn't know he's hallucinating, I don't think. When he returns to the group, he's decided he's going to go full on redneck again. He's wearing walker's ears on a sort of a string around his neck, and he's mistaken for a walker, and Andrea accidentally shoots him in the head. Luckily it's a glancing blow, it's enough to knock him out but not to kill him. So episode 6 is called Secrets, and this is where Glenn has to come sort of clean with everyone. He tells Dale about the barn, and they both approach Herschel, and Herschel explains that the walkers are in fact his friends and family and some people from the surrounding area, and he believes that they could be cured because nobody knows enough about the virus. Rick learns of the bitch Laurie's pregnancy by finding some morning after pills after she's tried to obviously abort the baby, and he confronts her. She then says, look, I've thrown the pills up, it was a rash decision, she's had a change of heart. Then she also comes clean about her and Shane's involvement. So the tension between Rick and Shane that was already a boiling point is now coming to a point where it's boiled over. Obviously Rick now has got some anger and some issues towards Shane. Because Shane was from Rick's point of view, he was in a coma. From Laurie's point of view, he was dead, but still, it's his best friend. Episode 7 is called Pretty Much Dead. are pretty much dead already. Glenn reveals the truth of the ban to the rest of the group, leading to Rick confronting Herschel. Herschel tells Rick that the only way the group are ever going to be allowed to stay is if they accept that his family are the walkers in the barn and they're to leave them alone. So Herschel takes a step further by taking Rick on a rescue mission, and the rescue mission is to rescue 2 trap walkers outside of the farm that Herschel knew in sort of the previous life. They successfully capture these walkers, and as they're herding them back to the barn, Shane loses his shit. Proper loses his shit. Basically smashes the barn's locks, shoots the 2 rescued walkers. When he breaks the barn doors open, the entire group are forced into action, because obviously there's sort of 12 or so walkers coming towards them. And the group take out this group of walkers as they're trickling out of the barn. They do it quite easily, and then you see one final walker as it comes out, and the walker is in fact Sophia, Carol's daughter that's been missing, that Daryl has been searching for. So Daryl then holds Carol back. She wants to go to her daughter, and Rick has no option other than to shoot her in the head. And this is the mid-season point, and this is something that happens every season now. You get sort of 6 or 7 episodes and you get a break, and then they come back after sort of Christmas in February-ish time. For summary, the extra casting of the Green family are a welcome addition, because there's more backstories to be told, more sort of padding. The episode Chupacabra was one of my favourite episodes of this point of the season, up to the midpoint. It features obviously Daryl looking for Sophia, and he's severely injured and falls down a bank, and he gets an arrow in through his back and out through his side. It's not a life-threatening injury in itself, but because of the circumstances and where he is, he's got to try and climb this cliff face with an arrow poking through him, and he starts to hallucinate his brother Merle's return. And to be fair, it's pretty awesome, because Merle is played absolutely brilliantly. The character, he's very hateable, there's no redeeming qualities, he's not likeable, but he is played to perfection. And the Walker Horde on the highway is sort of the first time you see a horde this big moving, not chasing anyone, they just sort of migrating. And it's very, very tense. And obviously the survivors are hiding under vehicles, holding their breath. And you find yourself almost holding your breath with them. And also, the tension building is this sort of boiling point that you know is coming between Rick and Shane. You know it's a powder keg and it's just waiting to explode at any moment. The reveal of Sophia actually have been a walker in the barn for most of, or the entire time, is a real sort of emotional gut punch. And Norman Reedus and Melissa McBride's Daryl and Carol, they play this to perfection. There's some of the best acting to this point is done by these two in this scene. This season sees Daryl's character step up from a also starring role to a male character, and Carol also gets a bit of a promotion to a series regular as opposed to a guest star. The Walkers are still the antagonist of the season, but Shane, I would say Shane is the main antagonist, and Bernthal plays a man losing a plot to jealousy and rage perfectly. He can be very subdued, but when he reacts or overreacts to something, the guy, he's like a force of nature. And obviously Bernthal's playing of him up to the point where he smashes the barn doors open, starts getting everyone to start firing on the walkers. It's played brilliantly. Andrea does more crying and then starts to step up. This is a character I still couldn't get into at this point. As she learns to deal with the grief and the suicidal thoughts by learning how to shoot. Dale continues to be the voice of reason of the group, but in doing so sort of rubs most people up the wrong way. and he started to get on my nerves a bit at this point as well. You're in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, you've got some guy trying to rule with his heart and not his head. Glenn proves invaluable because of his scavenging runs, and he gets more to do this time around rather than just scavenging because of this sort of blossoming romance. Carl Grimes, once he's sort of started to heal a bit, there's something different about him, and it looks like the violence he's seen so far has started to have an effect on him, and maybe this kid isn't as innocent as when this started. I mean, his innocence looks like it's in a fast decline. T-Dog is practically silent in the first half of this season. In fact, he contributes very little all season, and there's no spoiler there. And it's quite a shame, as he's a very likeable character, and they could have done a lot more with him. I think if you pasted everything in this season that he says together, you'd be lucky to get 5 minutes of dialogue, and it is a shame. The effects are stepped up in this season. They've done something with the blood. The blood looks darker, thicker, more believable. The walkers look better. They look to have decayed slightly more. The contact lenses are not so obvious. And some of the kills on walkers in this, they're really great. And the entire well sort of scene with Glenn in the well with this walker, it is absolutely disgusting. It is so well done, but it looks horrible. So the effects are stepped up, and the threat is stepped up from the walkers, because now they're in these bigger groups, whereas towards the end of the first season they were starting to take them out easier. These bigger groups have become something else entirely for them to deal with. The Sophia element, to me, it did start to drag a little, but when she turns up as a walker at the end, it's sort of worth it. If she turned up fine and well and alive, then that would have been a drag for nothing. But the fact that she's been a walker the entire time, you've spent 6 episodes watching everyone risking life and limb to find her, to discover she's been dead the entire time, it's a proper gut punch, and it's so well done and executed that it is worth the almost this is dragging. So obviously I've just said that these seasons are being extended, so I'm going to have to split them into parts 1 and 2 per season now, and that's where I'll be going from now on. So let me know in the comment section down below what you thought of season 2. I had quite a good feedback off my first one, so I am going to continue with this, and I will see you very soon for The Walking Dead Revisited Season 2, Episode 2. Thanks for watching. I've been the Bearded Geek. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you all soon. Goodbye.